Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Robbins, and welcome to LPLE from Dialogue FM. We're the podcast that lets you practice listening in English. We speak English slowly and clearly so that you can follow along and understand native English speakers more easily. I'm excited to help you improve your English listening skill, as well as help you learn new vocabulary, grammar, and idioms commonly heard in conversations among native English speakers. If you want to practice listening in English, then we invite you to join our conversation. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jesse.
I'm excited for you. Today we plan on recording 2 episodes back to back because this Saturday, you will be traveling to France.
Yes, it's been a while, and I'm just going to spoil myself.
Fantastic.
Because usually when I go, I'm introducing somebody else to it or traveling with friends or family. And of course, you pay a lot of attention. You want to be sure they're having a good time and there's no trouble. This time it's just me, and I will see friends, but I'm going to just play and discover parts of the city I don't know, which is endless, the parts I don't know. And I have a very fun apartment. And when I say fun, it means it's like many apartments in Paris. It used to be something else.
Oh.
And somebody turned it into an apartment. So you can see the original shop footprint, but now it's been made into a little apartment.
Fantastic.
It's going to be fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, please take pictures of that.
Okay.
I am curious about what kind of place this is, but also I'm curious about the places you're going to visit. You mentioned that you're going to visit places and discover things about France and Paris.
I'm just staying in Paris. Completely staying in Paris. I might take a day trip away or something, but I'm just going to enjoy Paris.
Great. Now, when you say you're going to discover things about France and about Paris that you haven't learned before, what comes to mind? What are you expecting?
2 things. Once, I always discover something because as much as I can, I walk wherever I go. And Paris is a great city for that because it's so compact. London is great for walking around in and discovering interesting little historical corners or interesting architecture, but it's a huge, huge, huge sprawling city. And Paris, if you walk quickly, and if you're talking about just Paris enclosed on the inside of the periphery road, you can walk across it in 3 hours.
Wow.
It's really densely populated, but geographically the footprint's quite small. Of course, it has huge suburbs, but but Paris, for example, you can take the subway, which is called the metro, and if you only have to change for one stop, most people don't bother to do that. They just get out and walk the extra bit because the metro stops are very close together. So what I love maybe most in the world is just walking, and you'll discover inscriptions, you'll discover tiny corners, you discover history just on top of history on top of history. But I am specifically going to visit places I haven't had time for before. There's the new, I think it's called Institute Louis Vuitton. Anyway, it's an art center sort of outside in the edges of Paris. And I've also been reading a lot about the fact that Paris is coming alive again in a new way. The old Paris used to be absolutely the capital of great cooking. And it really wasn't for a long time. For 20 or so years, it was falling backwards. And now suddenly there are young people that have moved into the cheaper neighborhoods and are bringing them back to life with design and, clothing, jewelry, cooking, natural wines, even small breweries. So it's like, probably on a larger scale, it's like what's happening now in Seattle and in Portland, a rediscovery of food, and a style of eating, which fits people's real lives. Not so many long 3-course meals, but wonderful short, quick eats that you can get. So I'm very interested in exploring neighborhoods which have become are transitioning from having been industrial neighborhoods into, neighborhoods with tons of young people.
Cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
Modern.
And cosmopolitan too, in the sense of very diverse. And again, people have made crazy apartments out of what used to be old workshops, things like that. So I'm looking forward to it.
When you say that food culture, culinary culture in France has slowed down, or
it had for a while. It's coming back up again.
What period? I mean, is it what year to what year do you think French culinary culture and popularity slowed down, and why? Why do you think that happened?
I've been reading about it. I had noticed myself that it had become possible to get a bad meal in France, which never happened when in the early years. I read that during the recession, they had to cut corners, so there was less freshness. People might buy shrink wrap. Things might be baked off the premises instead of made at home. Now, you could go to a famous 3-star restaurant and it would be fantastic, of course, but the price...
3-star?
A 3-star, yeah, and it would be, but the price for lunch would be $300 or $400, so...
What?
So you didn't do that very often.
Right.
But to get reasonably priced food that was really, really fresh, I don't mean it was rotten. I just mean it wasn't just right out of the garden. It slipped, even in my recognition. And the reading I've done says that the recession really didn't help. They had to cut corners in various ways. But it's roaring back with just tons of small places opening. And I'm really looking forward to it.
You use a phrase, roaring back. That's a good phrase.
Like a lion.
That. Yeah. Well, the word roar is something that a lion does. That's the sound of a lion. If you go to a zoo or a safari in different countries within Africa, you can hear a lion roar, and I won't try to do it on the microphone because I think I'll break the microphone. But it usually signifies something that is going to come back or grow very quickly, right?
Yes.
Usually we talk about it in terms of economics and culture.
That's true.
Right? So culture, the perfect example of the word roar is the Roaring Twenties.
That's right. That's right. When they were, everything changed then.
Yeah.
Clothing changed completely. People were celebrating, maybe quite rich. The jazz world exploded.
Right.
It was an incredible period.
Exactly. So when we think of roar, we think of very loud, very fast, very aggressive. And so it sounds like French food culture and the culinary world in France is coming back very aggressively and loudly.
Perhaps, yes, probably very loudly. A lot of the places that I've been hearing about and reading about are places that sound more like Spanish tapas bars in the sense that you can stand at the counter, have something to eat, have a great glass of natural wine, and just talk and then go to the next one. And you will not have sat down for a long meal. You'll just have stood and chatted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, out of curiosity, you are going to go by yourself and you're going to relax and treat yourself.
Yes, and meet friends there, definitely.
What's the most that you're going to spend at one restaurant?
Oh, I should tell you that I explicitly looked for an apartment that had a real kitchen, not just a microwave and one burner for, frying an egg or boiling an egg. I got a real stove. So I intend to go to markets and cook most of my own food and invite people. But if I find where I feel it's really worth it and I'm having a great time with a friend and I want a second glass of wine, I would go so far as 100.
Nice.
Just once.
Nice.
Just once.
There you go. Excellent. How long is your trip?
Just 9 days.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm excited
Thank
to
you.
see the photos and hear the stories when you get back. Plus, I hope our listening audience is going to live vicariously. Now, we used that word before, vicariously.
That's right.
To live vicariously means to enjoy an experience through the stories of somebody else. So for me, I've never been to France. I will live vicariously through your trip to France, all of your stories and your good food.
I'll try to write down every bit of food.
Good.
I'll spend a lot of time in bookstores, though, because it's not that easy to get French books here. It's not impossible, but
Right.
it's not that easy, so I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
But now for you, I have always wanted to go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And for you, Vietnam is almost a second home.
Yes.
So I am eager
Yeah.
to find out about your trip.
Well, that's right. You're going to France this Saturday, and then next month, on July 9th, I will be going to Japan for 3 weeks, and then Vietnam for 2 weeks. So overall, a 5-week vacation with my wife and our new son.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we're excited. We know that traveling with a new baby can be risky. It can be very fun, very easy, or it could be very stressful and very difficult. Right now, we think it's going to be very fun and very easy. However, my friends who have children all say, do not try to rely on one system for your child, because your baby is always growing and always changing. So one day your baby might want to eat every day at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so your body adjusts to waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then one day the baby wants to wake up at 3 o'clock. It happens. So we have to adjust. Anyway, yes, Japan and Vietnam both feel very comfortable to me. I've been to Japan 4 times and to Vietnam 3 times. My wife has been to Japan 0 times, and to Vietnam a handful of times. So when we say a handful, we usually mean like 3 to 7 or 8. Yeah.
Well, that's how I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had thought she was actually born there but left
That's true, yes.
very young. Okay.
That's
but
true.
You mean she's just visited back?
Correct,
Right.
correct. The Japan part of our trip is going to be more of your typical travel sightseeing. I'm going to pretty much be my family's tour guide / travel agent. I'm the one arranging everything. But it's easier for me because I can speak Japanese and I can quickly figure out things that my wife cannot in the Japanese language. I have created a rather aggressive travel schedule in Japan.
I was wondering.
So, our current plan is to visit 7 major cities over 3 weeks. It's doable.
Yes. I
Yeah.
was going to say it's doable. You can really get a good idea.
Right.
Still,
Yeah. So, I want you to imagine traveling from New York to LA and then stopping at 5 cities in between.
Mm-hmm.
So we got maybe Chicago, Minneapolis, what else?
Why not Denver?
Denver? Yeah, no, Denver, right? Denver.
Since that's my hometown.
There you go. Denver, Dallas, and Seattle, right? So stopping by 5 cities along the way and then ending in LA. So that's kind of what we're doing. We are starting in Tokyo, and then we're going to spend about 5 nights in Tokyo, and then spend a couple nights in Kyoto, where else? Kobe, Hiroshima, spend 5 nights in Osaka, and then 3 nights in Fukuoka, and then come back to Tokyo for 2 nights, and then from Tokyo fly to Vietnam, and then from Vietnam fly back to Seattle.
Via Los Angeles again.
Yeah, but actually San Francisco. Our layover flight is in San Francisco. I have friends in most of the major cities in Japan. So when I mentioned on Facebook that I'm coming back to Japan, my friends were very excited and they said, please come stay with us or let's hang out. So really great. Excited. Yeah. So like you, I will be staying we will be staying in not really apartments, but we're using Airbnb in this case. So people's houses. We will be renting rooms in people's houses, or actual small condominiums.
Right.
However, I am picking places close to train stations to make it easier for my wife and child to get from the train back to a place to rest.
Good thinking.
Yeah. It's going to be hot in Japan, hot and humid. Tui is familiar with hot and humid. However, she's familiar with Vietnam, hot and humid. I think Japan's hot and heat and humidity are a little different because there's more towers.
Oh, so the heat is held in.
Exactly.
More.
The heat is more condensed.
Yeah.
And there's less wind.
Got it.
Whereas in Vietnam, most of the buildings are 3 stories tall, like residential. I mean, maybe if you go into the downtown area, there's taller towers. But even then, the blocks the city blocks are spaced in a way where you can still feel some wind that comes through. Mm-hmm. And the heat doesn't feel trapped. It doesn't feel condensed. Japan is a different ballgame altogether, different situation. So anyway, I did purchase online 2 battery-operated fans.
Good. Good.
One for my child and one for my wife. I will probably use the fan too, but I want to make sure that my wife and child are comfortable. I want to make this trip fun, adventurous, and exciting. But in order to do that, I think that we need to also be aggressive in traveling. Ultimately, my wife calls the shots, meaning she makes the final decisions. So maybe one day we have plans to go to this particular tourist attraction, but she may want to just stay inside and relax a little bit. So I can accept that.
And when she wants to do that, do you feel comfortable leaving her and going off by yourself for a while?
Absolutely.
And she's totally fine with that, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice way to have things be.
Oh, I think so. And for her, my wife and I have been together for over 10 years. So, I know that she would feel uncomfortable if she stayed home and felt bad because I was staying home with her.
Oh, yes.
I think that she would want me to go out and explore.
In her place, I would think the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, maybe she just wants a few extra hours to relax. So we are bringing a baby carrier, something that we can wear. So like a backpack.
Yes, but it's a front pack in this case.
It's a front pack, and you put the baby inside. So she has one for her, a simple one, and then I have a bigger one for me. Mm-hmm. So I can take the baby out. I can let my wife relax while I go out and explore, walk around, maybe come back and bring her some water or coffee or whatever. Now, I asked you about how much you're willing to spend at one restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Japan, there is this world-famous, world-renowned sushi restaurant. Okay. Do you have Netflix? Are you familiar? Okay.
Yes, of course.
So if you have time,
let me write this down.
Yeah, sure. There is a movie called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. So I'll repeat it. I'll explain.
I've heard about it.
Yeah. So while you're grabbing your notebook, I'll keep talking about it. This movie called Jiro, Jiro, Dreams of Sushi, talks about the life of this man, Jiro, who has created the first, I think, 5 Michelin star sushi restaurant in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
There are usually only 3 stars in France. That doesn't get higher than that in France.
Right.
So 5. Wow.
Yes. It's highly, highly rated. You need to make a reservation well in advance.
You have your reservation?
Not yet. So, I tried calling. They're not accepting reservations right now. They said to call again later, so I will try. I think per person, it's $300 to $400. as expected.
That
right?
sounds about right, like for something like that. But it's not just food. It's a whole huge ritual and experience.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm excited for you.
So I want to have this experience for my wife. She has mentioned more than a couple of times that if we go to Japan, she wants to go there. So it's my job to try to make that happen.
Is the name Jiro Dreams of Sushi, is that just the name of the movie, or is it actually the name of the restaurant as well?
It's the name of the movie. Yeah. So we'll see. I hope we can do it. That will definitely be the most expensive meal I will have ever had in my life today per person. But this is a special moment in our life. We have a new baby. We have a new house. This is a chance for me and my wife to really celebrate something together. After Japan, we fly to Vietnam for 2 weeks of just relaxing, similar to your situation. Yeah. Maybe even less sightseeing and walking around, because we know Vietnam well enough to just use that time to more reconnect with family.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, trust me, Ho Chi Minh City is huge. So there's plenty of districts for us to visit, plenty of temples, plenty of pagoda, lots of history around the area. But I think for maybe it's a different kind of history compared to maybe what you would learn in when you walk around. For us, the history is interesting, but we really want to use that time to just reconnect with family.
Yes.
And more importantly, introduce our new son to his great-grandmother and great-grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Are they in their 90s?
Yeah. They are very, very old. I mean, and they're healthy from what we know, which is great. But you never know.
But they must have lived through the war.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Wow.
So I want to use this as a special opportunity for them, the great grandparents of our child, to meet a baby from America that they never probably would have ever met before. Also, I think this is the first mixed baby in the family. I don't think there are any other mixed marriages on my wife's side of the family.
So you're the bringer of change.
That's a great way to put it. I'm the bringer of change. Now, I will say that my wife's relatives have repeatedly told my wife, "Oh, you should have children. Oh, you should have children. You guys are going to have such beautiful babies." Right? The idea.
People think that, and it's very often true.
That mixed babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I'm 100% biased when I say this, but yes, our son is
gorgeous,
very, very cute. Our son is super cute.
I agree.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. You met Vincent.
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
So I think that Thuy's family is going to love this child. They're going to want to hold this child, and they may not want to give him back to us.
Maybe they'll take him for an afternoon so you can go get some
sleep. Yes.
Sleep.
Yeah. Well, so the way we see it is this could also be a good chance for us, me and my wife and I, to talk about the idea of sending our baby back to Vietnam for the summer.
Wow.
When the baby's older.
Oh, just to have the relatives, have him live with the relatives,
Yeah.
speak Japanese.
Vietnamese.
Vietnamese.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know
Exactly.
that. Yeah. Ah.
So remember, you know this, we are raising our child to speak Vietnamese at home. We think that we can do even better by sending our child back to Vietnam to live with relatives at an early age, maybe 5 years old, maybe 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure. It depends. However, we think going at an early age will not only help Vincent learn Vietnamese, but also learn and have a different perspective on life.
Absolutely. I have often envied children who are brought up that way. I think I've made up for it in later age, but because language is like a musical instrument, if you don't start at about a certain age, you will always be a little challenged for accent and that sort of thing. But up to a certain age, which is about 12, and they can sound native, and so it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And learning it here in your household is nice, but it's not the same as his going and finding out that, gosh, all the little kids around me speak Vietnamese.
That's right.
It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Good plan.
I think it will be a good experiment. Now, of course, we think the family will say yes. We will say, please let us give you money because you're going to be raising a child for 3 months. They will probably say no. Thuy's family, my wife's family, is very generous, very loving people. But no matter what, I'm excited for Japan because I get to introduce my wife to Japanese culture firsthand and see friends. I'm also very excited for Vietnam to see family and friends, but also mainly to take one photo, and it's going to be of my son with his great-grandparents.
Yes.
And I'll take that photo, and then I'll print it, and then I'll send it back to them.
Yes.
And I will also print that photo and put it on our wall. That will be a life memory, a life story.
Yes, it is.
It is. We will want him to have for the rest of his life.
When you think how far we've come since they were young and obviously survived somehow the war, which wasn't easy for any Japanese, and to have them have an American grandchild and have it be such a happy circumstance. Yeah. It's really nice.
To have the child come back, so to be American born to a mixed family. Well, okay, I have to be realistic. Vincent's not going to understand or communicate in Vietnamese. But maybe 5 years later, if the grandparents are still, or if the great-grandparents are still with us, how awesome would it be to have their American-born great-grandson communicate with them in Vietnamese?
Oh,
yeah.
Just
I think
fantastic.
They'd like that. Yeah. So you have a great opportunity to collect some wonderful stories, as do I, and we look forward to sharing them with our audience here over the next couple of months.
Yes.
Yeah. Enjoy your trip.
Same to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of LPLE. Let's practice listening in English from Dialogue FM. Subscribe to LPLE on iTunes to hear the latest episodes, or listen to past episodes on our website, dialogue.fm. That's dialog.fm. If you have questions or comments about English, or if you would like for us to use a word, grammar, or idiom in our conversation so you can learn how to use it correctly, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at dialogue.fm or Facebook at facebook.com/dialoguefm.